Today, you don't want to miss these special iPhone 17 leaks, why Mark Zuckerberg will break his own record for Congress appearances, and finally, Nintendo still hates pirates. Let's get into it. Will Apple use the upcoming iPhone 17 launch to change the industry? Because if this Chinese regulatory database leak is to be believed, then yes, iPhones with an eSIM will have more battery. Makes sense. We took out one thing, therefore we have space for another. And because of this stroke of innovation, Apple will have the iPhone 17 Pro Max become the first iPhone ever with a 5,000 mAh battery. However, not everyone will have the choice whether to eSIM or not to eSIM. Because in countries with strong regulations like the EU or China, Apple may still be forced to offer SIM trays in these regions. And a phone like the iPhone 17 Air, which is all eSIM, may not be viable for those markets. But will this force the rest of the industry just move full throttle to eSIM only? And the big question is, what has Zuck done now? How is Nintendo fighting piracy? But first, after previous leaks of the S26 Edge basically looked like an iPhone 17 Pro on Halloween, new images have shown that even Samsung has some limits. Thanks to smart bricks CAD designs of the S26 Pro and Ultra, showing both phones sticking to Samsung's ever-random design philosophy, the new phones will be slimmer, sleeker, and finally jumping on Qi 2 magnets for better wireless charging and accessory support. Under the hood, the Pro might rock Samsung's Exynos chip, while the Ultra is expected to go with Qualcomm next-gen Snapdragon chip. Classic Samsung move. One phone might get the "we tried," and the other, but they did it better. And yes, rest easy, despite previous rumors and leaks pointing that something might kill us the S Pen of the S26, it hasn't, at least not yet. It will live on to pen another S in a galaxy far, far away from an Exynos chip. OpenAI is backing a new animated feature film called Critterz. The goal is simple: prove AI can make movies for way less. How much less, you may ask? $30 million. Which, compared to Pixar's $200 million extravaganza, basically makes Critterz the indie film of the year. If your indie film still has millions of dollars in the Cannes premiere slot. And you bet the Hollywood producers will have an eye out for this movie at its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival in 2026. And before you get mad, it has human voiced actors, original artwork, and a traditional script. But the heavy lifting, animation, and production is accelerated with AI, meaning instead of a 3-year grind, they're aiming for just 9 months. But what if this movie works? What if it's actually really good? Will you be able to support this new wave of good animated AI movies? Because I know for a fact that if this actually works, Hollywood producers will not leave this golden goose alone. So I would love to hear your opinion down in the comments below. The EU just handed Google a historic fine, $3.5 billion for anti-competitive advertising practices. One of the largest fines in the EU. Basically pocket change for Google, but still enough to stick. Now, the EU is just taking the money and walking away. They're giving Google 60 days to submit a plan to fix things, which is basically telling the world's most powerful ad company to go stand in the corner and think about things. And if Google doesn't, well, the EU could push for stronger remedy, and up to and including breaking up Google's ad division. So, let's be honest, the last time someone tried to break up Google, it went as well as trying to kill a fish by drowning it. Of course, not everyone's cheering. Trump threatened retaliatory tariffs over the EU fine. His message was clear: how dare you find my delegates? Now, let's get into some study. First up, Originality.ai says 10.4% of Google's shiny new AI overviews are citing content that was probably written by other AI. Basically, robots plagiarizing other robots. Google, of course, disputes the study, calling it flawed, questioning the reliability of AI detection tools. Which is convenient because if the tools were actually 100% reliable, then half the internet would start sweating by now. And this all feeds the whole dead internet theory, the theory that almost all content on the internet is written by a machine, which means the internet is less like a global town square and more like a giant group of chatbots arguing with each other. But wait, it gets juicier. A new survey just polled 791 professional developers and found that nearly 1/3 of senior developers, folks with more than a decade of experience, say over half the code they ship is AI generated. For junior devs with 2+ years experience, only 13% reported the same. Translation: veterans are outsourcing their work while juniors have to prove that they actually know what they're doing. Here's something that you may already know. Most devs spend most of their time correcting AI-generated code, which means robots aren't here to replace us just yet. They're just giving some people some unpaid overtime work. Meta is being accused of suppressing child safety research. According to whistleblowers and documents presented to Congress, Meta allegedly edited or withheld internal studies showing serious risks to kids using its VR headset, possibly because those same VR headsets were making them a shit ton of money. The reports detailed cases of child grooming, sexual propositions in VR environments. In one instance, a case involving a German family was reportedly removed from official record even though the parents had consented to share it. The fact that it was so bad that you chose to remove it says a lot. Meanwhile, Meta's legal team allegedly told researchers not to collect data on children at all, citing GDPR and US privacy law. Okay, now Meta cared about the law, but employees had already warned that kids under 13 were easily bypassing the age limit. So, you know what Meta did in infinite wisdom? They lowered the minimum age from 13 to 10. Now, Meta denies suppressing research, calling the documents stitched together to fit a false narrative, which, coming from a company that's got AI-generated feeds that feel like they're stitched together, feels on brand. Now, a Senate Judiciary Subcommittee is gearing up to investigate, which means Mark Zuckerberg will return to his natural habitat, testifying before Congress. I'm pretty sure that he still holds the record for the most Senate hearings, but correct me if I'm wrong down in the comment below. Into some Apple news. Apple is being sued for piracy. In 2025, even a trillion-dollar company likes to ride the high tide once in a while. However, two authors weren't happy and have filed a lawsuit against Apple. They're accusing Apple of using pirated versions of their books to train AI models. I don't know what type of AI models they thought Apple is training because they don't have anything that works. No consent, no compensation. The lawsuit seeks class action status, citing the vast number of authors affected, but Apple isn't alone here. OpenAI is already being sued by the New York Times and others. Anthropic just settled a similar case for $1.5 billion, adding authors $3,000 per book. But serious question, what happens to the smaller authors? Those whose work gets used but never receive a dime of anything? More than one, Apple is planning on releasing two distinct AirPods. According to leaks, the AirPods Pro 3 dropping alongside the iPhone 17 will include heart rate monitoring, smaller charging case, improved sound and noise cancellation. But I recommend that you wait for the ones coming out next year. They won't be a major change, but a premium one at best. They will include a tiny infrared camera for gesture controls and enhanced spatial audio with Vision Pro. I still don't know what that means. They may remove pressure sensors entirely in favor of gesture-only controls, and expected to cost more than the current $250 retail price tag. Apple's strategy here is simple. Sell both side by side by next year and force you to pick one over the other. To be cheap or not to be cheap. You decide. A functioning brain and common sense. Two things that this Michigan resident severely lacked. As a result, he's been ordered to pay $2 million in damages to Nintendo for enabling piracy. How did this happen? Well, good question, and the answer is kinda funny. Dali sold modified Nintendo Switch consoles, pirated games and devices like the Meg Switch, which allowed users to play unauthorized copies. So, despite receiving a cease and desist warning from Nintendo, Dali continued operations and chose to defend himself in court with a deemed lawyer. My guy thought he was Harvey Specter going into this. And that's a pretty technique. I love you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.